we will start another session on biomethane. So I welcome my colleagues to the stage. Robert Kirchner will be moderating this panel. And I think you will take the seat and present your colleagues who will join you at the panel.
Cut it a bit short. Okay. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, warm welcome also to the last panel. We will probably cut it a bit short because we are already a bit behind the schedule. Nevertheless, we have a very exciting topic, unlocking Ukraine's biomethane potential, opportunities and challenges. And we have a very esteemed panel of speakers here with very diverse backgrounds, and I think that's very good because it allows us to look at the topic from very different angles, and by bringing together different perspectives, I think we can gain a lot of insights into this topic. I would like to first introduce our speakers, and then we will have a round of short inputs by them. I will start with Adomas Audickas. He's the Deputy CEO of the Ukrainian agricultural giant MHP, and they're responsible for bioenergy development. And he's also a member of the Ukrainian Biogas Association, so also in industry associations, so he has a wider industry perspective. He will later on share with us some recent experience that his company has gained by actually being one of the first to export biomethane to the EU. Next to me sits Dirk Buschle. Warm welcome, Dirk. He's a lawyer, at leading energy law firm Becker, Büttner, Held, and heads their Brussels office. Many of you know Dirk also from his previous position at the energy community, where he worked for 17 years as deputy director and head of legal. And during this time, he constantly worked on Ukraine's renewable sector, so also from his point of view, a very warm welcome to hear later on your perspective. Tetiana Dzhumurat, she's from EBRD, a senior banker there. Warm welcome, with over a decade of experience in investment and corporate finance across the instruments from equity, debt, mezzanine, working with small companies, bigger companies. And she has, I think, worked on more than €1 billion of accumulated deals and financing, and currently tries to mobilize private sector finance into the sustainable recovery of Ukraine. And I think also the financing aspect is very important in this kind of potentially very, very interesting market. Florian Willershausen, warm welcome, is interim CEO at UAG Energy, where he's developing a growing portfolio of biomethane assets projects in Ukraine, but also in the region, backed by private investors. And he's also, before his current role, he was a business development director at a Luxembourg investment fund, where he also led many international projects aligned with the European Green Deal. So he has also a wide range of experience of mobilizing private sector finance into the sector. Last but not least, I also welcome warmly Cyriac Massué from the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy, where he is the desk officer in the bilateral country division, dealing with economic energy and economic cooperation with Ukraine in the context also of the energy partnership, but also beyond that. And I'm also very glad that we have an official representative from a German ministry here that can enrich the discussion. So without further ado, my name, just to complete the circle, is Robert Kirchner. I'm with Berlin Economics, as was announced, member of the management board there. We are an economic consultancy, and I've been working in Ukraine for many, many years, overseeing a wide host of projects in economic policy consulting, especially also in the energy and climate sphere. Now, without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Adomas, because his company has actually gained some very, very interesting experience this year. I think it went to the news also. Adomas, maybe you can, from your perspective, share what's going on. What is your vision? What do you see as potential? Also, where do you see obstacles, and what should be improved to realize this potential?
Thank you very much. Thank you for a chance to address this audience. I did not prepare my speech because I wasn't expecting what exactly I'm going to meet today and what do I need to speak. I spoke about biomethane, many things, but I need to understand what exactly can I tell to this audience. And you are mostly from wind and batteries. I will need to explain a bit biomethane because I think there is some misunderstanding of what exactly, not what exactly biomethane is, but what type of business is with biomethane. But before, very briefly, in terms of what we achieved, in Ukraine we built 2 factories this year. One 200 gigawatt capacity, we liquefy biomethane, make it liquid, and ship it to Europe, to Germany. And the other plant is 120 gigawatts capacity. We inject biomethane into the grid and also exporting to Europe. Biomethane for Ukraine is very important industry, because it's not very massive industry at European level, but Ukraine is a small country. Economy is very small. It's a big country in terms of people, but economy is very small. So every niche industry where Ukraine can invest is very important for the country. And in this way, it can be less reliable on subsidies if we'll be able to have bankable projects and we'll be able to invest. So in my opinion, wind perhaps a bit bigger in terms of size, but second to this, biomethane would be second. Ukraine very realistically can attract 5 billion investment into the next 5 years. And most of the revenue that will be generated will be export revenues, currency, which is badly needed for the country. So it's very important industry. However, there are some issues why Ukraine cannot fulfill this potential. There are many projects that are ready to build, and even in this audience we have several projects here. But it's very difficult to sell biomethane, Ukrainian biomethane, because there are still lots of barriers in European countries to accept biomethane. And this is why I want to explain maybe what biomethane business is. Biomethane, there are 2 markets for biomethane. One market is where you use biomethane to replace gas for heating industry and similar, or to produce electricity, but that's a different market. This is not where, this is not free market. This market is usually subsidized by countries, and only local producers can participate in that market. The other market is where biomethane is a biofuel. You compete with bioethanol and you compete with biodiesel. And this is free market because it's one market for all biofuels in Europe. And there are no barriers at all. You can sell biodiesel German produced to Spain, or Spain produced to Poland. There is one market. Same with biomethane. However, for Ukraine, there we still have barriers. For example, to Germany, we can sell biomethane only if it's liquid. So we have to produce it, we have to liquefy it on site, then ship it with trucks, which doesn't make sense because you need to spend so much energy to liquefy, to ship it by trucks. And the whole point of biofuel is to reduce CO2 emissions. So instead of reducing, you're increasing. So this is where regulation is not optimal. Hopefully, Germany will change that regulation and will allow biomethane from Ukraine. And right now there is a draft law that will allow this. I think it will be very nice symbolically, given that Germany does no longer import Russian gas. They will start importing Ukrainian biomethane. I think that's a really symbolic gesture that sounds very well. So I think one thing that I wanted to discuss that there will be lots of bankable projects in biomethane. The reason it's bankable is that in terms of commercial, it's better than wind, because with wind you need to find feed-in tariffs, and one of the reasons of this conference is to discuss what type of instruments can be in Ukraine. With biomethane you don't need to, because you can sell biomethane at fixed price for a very long term, because the market works this way, especially if it's maritime. Shipping companies, when they decide whether to invest into diesel engine or LNG engine, they need to understand at what price they will be buying the fuel. And once they make investment decision, they want to fix their price. Therefore, you can really have long-term contracts with fixed prices. This way it's very attractive. And you take off commercial risk. So the key problem that we have in Ukraine is removal of barriers, regulatory barriers. And perhaps Dirk will speak more about this, that you will see that all those barriers, they are not real barriers. They basically go against European competition law. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And very good that you in the beginning did this little primer on biomethane, because I think you highlighted a few very important observations. EU, Germany as an important off-taker, right? That's part of the story. It's not so much domestic use, it's actually in a big export potential, right? We will talk about that, but also about the regulatory barriers, obstacles that are still there. We will dive a bit later into this. Then also that the biomethane market is actually not homogeneous, but it has different market segments with very different attractiveness, degrees of attractiveness. We will also pick that up later on. Florian will talk about that. And then you mentioned a couple of times financing, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to scale up production, you need to scale up financing. And it's great to have Tetiana here also on the panel to talk about that. But yeah, let me then turn from Ukraine to the other side of the market. Dirk, you're representing here the kind of regulatory point of view. You've prepared a little presentation, so please go ahead and maybe you can answer already some of the questions that Adomas raised on the regulatory side.
I will keep it very short, and maybe at the beginning also express my surprise that biomethane has been a bit of a latecomer in all these discussions on renewables in and from Ukraine, which is a surprise because it is a trailblazer and can be a trailblazer about what we're discussing always on a meta level, and that's the integration of Ukraine and its energy sectors and products into the European market. And to be fair, also probably in Europe and in Germany, biomethane, biogas has been a latecomer. A lot of, a major part of what is called the energy transition has evidently been focusing on electricity, wind and solar, which is fair enough, but now maybe also with the hydrogen boom, not coming to an end, but coming to a more realistic state, we realize that what's needed to green our gas system is indeed biomethane. And biomethane, as Adomas explained, from Ukraine has a large potential. The EU and Germany as well have invested a lot in creating lead markets, in making sure that there are targets, quota, that incentivize the offtake of biomethane. So the question is, why are there still obstacles? And we will look at this from a legal regulatory perspective. We'll go into the EU and into Germany. The EU is an internal market for energy, and we have, of course, what is called the free movement of goods, which applies not only between Germany and its neighboring EU countries, but also between Germany and the EU and Ukraine as a member of the energy community, my previous organization. And the modalities of how this trade is to happen within the EU and the energy community, hence including Ukraine, has been fleshed out, has been harmonized all over Europe by way of regulation. The famous RED III directive that you all know, that has targets for biomass, biofuels, biogas, especially in the area of transport. And there is a harmonization, so that means the same rules all over Europe for how sustainability is ensured and how it is verified. And what you need to participate in that system is essentially to be within or to apply to submit your data in a so-called mass balance system to make sure that in potentially mixed cargo shipments through pipelines, you can always track the sustainable part of it, and there is no confusion and no abuse when it comes to verifying the claim that biomethane, biogas is sustainable indeed. That is possible both in Germany and the EU, and the precondition is that there is an interconnected gas system, which evidently and for decades already has been the case between Ukraine, EU and Germany. And under these conditions, so if one assumes that an economic operator, be they from Ukraine or be they from Germany or be they from elsewhere in Europe, satisfies these criteria, we are back to the principle, and the principle is the free movement, a subjective right for economic operators to trade across the internal market. That is the EU plus. This is not something I'm just claiming, but this has also been confirmed by the courts, both in the EU and in Germany. Now let's look at the German market. Evidently a very big market, also a very attractive market, also because of its regulation, because of the so-called THG quote, as we call it in German, or the greenhouse gas emission reduction quota for the transport system. So that needs to be fulfilled. As we said, Ukrainian biomethane provides a perfect case, a business case as well, to help fulfilling that quota. But the problem, and these are the regulatory barriers that Adomas alluded to, is that the law that regulates, that governs this system, a very complex German word, Bundesemissionsschutzgesetz, is essentially silent on imports. So there was an omission at the beginning that there is no rules on imported biomethane. That was kind of broken up again by jurisprudence, so it's clear they can come from the EU. But in the silence, in the state of silence of the law, the German authorities who decide upon that, which gas from where, which biomethane from where is to be accounted towards the quota, and hence evidently can support the business case for an importer, discriminates, to put it quite frankly. They draw a line between the EU and non-EU member states, and that is probably not a discrimination that's on purpose, but it is again an omission, because the fact that Ukraine as a member, and that I say with a certain pride because I've been representing that organization, as a member of the energy community, is to be put on equal footing with any operator, any producer, any importer from the EU, is evidently something that may have not been on the mind of the drafters of this law. And now there's a chance for this to be rectified, indeed. As Adomas said, there is initiatives underway to tackle that, and hopefully this barrier will be removed and we can have that level playing field. Again, I think that is a trailblazer also for all other commodities coming from Ukraine that can help not only to secure the system in Ukraine, but also provide revenues against supporting the EU in fulfilling their targets and ambitions, that this market will also, from a German perspective, include, like you see it on the borders, when you have to show your visa, it's the EU, it's the EEA countries, and in the future also energy community members such as Ukraine. So that internal market and hence free movement of biomethane is about to become a reality in Germany as well. And I think that is a recognition not only as an expression of political goodwill towards Ukraine, but it is just something that is in line with commitments undertaken earlier. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dirk, for sketching the regulatory framework, also pointing out to omissions which are hopefully now being addressed. And one has to say it again, I mean, this is this topic is a win-win opportunity for both Germany, the EU and Ukraine, because I mean, on the one hand, Ukraine gains export earnings, can diversify its exports, can boost economic growth, value creation, employment, and at the same time, we as the EU also get these green renewable gases that we so desperately need. And by doing that, by opening our market, giving market access, basically, we do not send subsidies to Ukraine, but rather allow them actually to grow and to deliver their goods here and services. One important point which has been mentioned again is finance. I mean, if you want to boost this, you need obviously to invest, and you need money for that. And the EBRD is, I think, one of the few institutions which is looking seriously into this topic. So, Tetiana, your views would be really appreciated. How do you see the way forward? What can be done or what should be done to make projects bankable? And how do you see your institution's role into this process?
Thank you. EBRD has been a consistent partner in green transition, and Ukraine is central to that mission. We continue to invest in new projects despite the war in resilient and green projects, and biomethane is a natural step for Ukraine. Traditionally, we have supported our agricultural clients, such as MHP, in building biogas facilities, but those were all corporate finance loan, part of energy efficiency projects. Now we are moving a step further. We're looking into project finance structures to help scale the sector in biomethane, to attract new investors. And this is what we're doing. We have financed our first project already in Estonia. It's a bioforce project, but we also have a pipeline of projects in Ukraine. We'll be signing a mandate letter with one of those such projects to move forward with due diligence. And yeah, we are here. We're open for business. Everybody knows what's needed for bankable projects. It's an offtake, it's a supply, and construction risks to cover. So we see that it's potential. We're gonna do it, and we believe in it. So please, if you haven't asked EBRD for finance yet, please do.
Thank you very much. It's a clear signal. Maybe moving back from the Ukrainian perspective again to the German side, Florian, you prepared a recent study that also our company was involved with for the energy partnership on obstacles of biomethane imports to Germany from Ukraine, and maybe you can put that into the center of your presentation and provide maybe the key findings and some recommendations derived out of that, so that you can share these insights with us.
All right. Thank you, Robert. I will keep myself very brief on the results of our study. A couple of words about myself. So you heard already, I've been working in the investment sector, but we founded the UIG Energy as a project development and investment holding to develop biomethane producing projects in Eastern Europe, because there are huge feedstocks untouched to be transferred into biomethane particularly. And this is something, of course, which is also in the interest of Ukraine on the one hand, because it creates economic perspectives, jobs and so on, and resilience, of course, in the energy sector. But it's also of interest of the European Union with the Repower EU plan outlining that 35 billion cubic meters of in the gas mix should be biomethane. And we have not reached even 1/3 of that, and this is the target for 2030. So let's hurry up. And that includes, of course, Ukraine. No need to read that all, because we'll send it probably afterwards anyway. But we have basically 3 existing markets in Germany. The problem here with the markets is that the European DG Energy and the European Union allowed the national regulators to define the criteria for their markets with quite some flexibility. And this leads to the fact that we actually have dozens of different markets for biomethane all over Europe, and we need to deal with that, and we need to find the right market segment for the volumes to market them. In Germany, we distinguish currently mostly the transportation segment, which is the GHG quota accounting topic, which we heard, currently restricted for unclear reasons. We'll get back to that on a bit later. Then we have the heating segment. This is the Gebäudeenergiegesetz, very political thing in Germany, but basically we're talking here about replacing fossil fuels by renewable gases in the heating systems. So, and this is linked to a shortage in the upcoming years and creates a very interesting market also for imports. And the industrial sector is basically EU ETS driven, low prices right now. There is a new market upcoming, which is the maritime sector, because the ship owners, vessel operators are required to increase the share of decarbonized fuels, and the most logical option to do that is bio-LNG. And here we have a new market to come, which is very interesting, but even less regulated than the other markets which we touched, because it's currently flooded with subsidized volumes from the Netherlands and Denmark, which is a big problem for the level playing field inside Europe. So we have to evaluate that and see how it goes forward, but there is a huge demand. I would say that Ukrainian suppliers should concentrate themselves on the mass market, which means the heating segment in Germany and several others which are related to the needs of industries and crop waste based. So I would not stick only to the narrow GHG quota transportation segment, because this needs to be consumed somewhere. And we have only a few CNG or LNG trucks driving on German roads. This is not Italy, but this is the technology of favor. So it's a very narrow segment. And when you open it up for imports, which might be one of the explanations why some forces play against that, then you may have shrinking prices. And the regulation for that segment is changing anyway, despite the fact that we expect that the market segment will be opened for imports in the near future. What I would like to outline based on our findings is basically that we need to improve the traceability between Ukraine and the European Union. The situation here is that we have some missing confidence on the end consumer side right now, because nobody clearly confirms that third country imports are eligible for several markets. This is because we have no streamlined mass balancing with the European Union. Ukraine has been promised to participate in the Union database for biofuels, but the UDB is not ready, and it most likely won't be ready until 27. And because of that, we have actually no confirmed mechanism how to confirm the volumes injected into the grid in Ukraine and transferred through the virtual trading point. So this needs to be streamlined and clarified by the regulator on the EU level, especially for the EU ETS-based market, so that the end customer could say, okay, I don't have to buy additional certificates because these volumes replace my fossil gas and I get the according benefits. But also in the GHG quota-based market and for the heating segment. And there we need some clearances also from the government in Germany and the European Union. And I would welcome to see, let's say, active role also from the German responsible authorities to work there closely with the Ukrainian bodies. So that's all from my side. Open for discussion.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for highlighting these very different market segments, right, with different opportunities and downsides, and then also for kind of, from your point of view, from the analysis, identifying obstacles and also providing some sort of recommendations on how to proceed. And I take your last hint, pointing to a representative from the responsible German institutions, which is by chance our last panelist, Cyriac. So maybe you can, in your input, address what Florian had said, but also, I mean, showing what role Germany foresees for renewable gases from Ukraine in its energy and climate strategy. I think this would be also good to get more on this background. Again, we are now switching again to the German side, which is the potential big offtake and demand stimulus for this.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you also to the other panelists for highlighting all the open questions. And I have the grateful task of representing the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy today, which is at least partly responsible for some of the open questions that investors might have when coming to biomethane exports to Europe and Germany. Usually I'm looking at Ukraine's biomethane market through the eyes of the German-Ukrainian Energy Partnership, which is our main task in the Ukraine division at the ministry. So for us the potentials are pretty clear. Ukraine is an agricultural giant. There is plenty of biomass available that would lead to the production or allow the production of EU sustainability criteria compatible biomethane, and on the other hand side it's a win-win situation because this opens new markets also for German suppliers actually of equipment for the biomethane production. So it seems quite obvious that this is an area that we would support within the framework of the German-Ukrainian Energy Partnership. And actually we do, because we are, I would say, one of the reasons why EUEA's conference can successfully happen in Berlin today within this framework. So obviously we're quite interested in helping to set the stage for this interesting discussion. Now coming to the off-taker side, which is actually the bigger question. There is some things that are on the way. The Bundesemissionsschutzgesetz, the BImSchG, was already mentioned by our experts here. Let's say that the work is ongoing, but that due to the anticipated election and the reorganization within the German government and the many other things that are happening, so far I don't have a ready answer for you today that it is coming and ready. Nonetheless, I will be using the insights that I'm getting today to bring that back to our ministry to hope to speed up the work on that. Also, on the other hand side, we talked about different markets, different potentials for biomethane exports to Germany. Actually, at first glance, it seems that there is an even bigger potential looking at industrial consumers and ETS-related sales of biomethane to German consumers. So there we are very much looking forward to the implementation and the readiness of the unified database, the UDB that was mentioned. And I'm sure that we will be, as a ministry, also communicating that to the European Commission and trying to identify some potential on how we can support the work on the ground for Minenergo to actually be faster in getting ready for the integration into the UDB, which will be the foundation for the exports of Ukrainian biomethane in this area. Yes, so I hope this sets a little bit the picture for you. I'm here today more as a listener. Unfortunately, I don't have the ready answers yet. But I hope that my presence, our support for this conference, this setting, send at least the first message. And again, I would express my gratitude to the participants and to Anastasia Vereshinska for setting the stage for today's discussion. Yeah, my ears are wide open and I will try to answer the questions that I can.
Thank you very much, Cyriac. It's very much appreciated also that you're willing to take kind of messages, lessons that you learned here from today's event. And again, some of the uncertainties of the open questions were raised by different people here, so there is something to take home and to deliver the message. And hopefully this helps also to kind of overcome these obstacles, so that basically then the level of playing field is there and Ukraine can start to realize its full potential. And also for stressing or highlighting the role also German equipment exporters have in this business. So it's not a one-sided story, right, that we are simply waiting for Ukrainian biomethane to be kind of fed into our system, but rather this is also for us as German exporters of equipment, of investment goods, a classical topic to export and help Ukraine to build this this whole value chain and to be able to realize this potential. So as we are short on time and we still have a signing ceremony before then the well-deserved reception, I would actually open the floor to the audience immediately to see if there are questions. I guess there will be questions. I see already one, so please, we have a mic here. Just briefly say who you are and then address your question to one of the panelists or to all.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Bengt Berg from the Gas- und Wasserstoffwirtschaft, so gas and hydrogen business. I'm representing kind of 120, 130 companies all over the gas, hydrogen, and now biomethane business. One of the major obstacles we have in Germany is that we don't have a problem with information on what the problem is. We have a problem on political power and political setting through the topics. And that's where I want to start and want to offer you one of the major obstacles we are seeing right now, because if we look into the EU mass balancing system and the EU Binnenmarktpaket, which is being implemented right now, it's in negotiations right now, you forgot the Binnenmarket. So there is no intention on the mass balancing system in the German application of the law. So that's a major obstacle. We are being told it's coming somewhere later, and that's an issue, because that could kill everything that comes with the scaling up of biomethane market in Germany. We have a database which contains 58 versions of biomethane, which is totally nonsense. So we have to come down to 1, 2, 3, like subsidized, unsubsidized, finish. So we can't attach it to the European database because it not exists on the first place, but on the second place, it's way too complicated. If we do it as we do it in Germany, it's not going to succeed. So that's what I want to hand over to you, and thank you very much.
So I think it was more of a comment and more messages to take home, but maybe Cyriac, you can.
Well, just a short reply. I mean, thank you very much for the frank speaking. It's more useful for us to get a clear messaging than some blah blah around the topic. So thank you for that, and I'll take that home to the colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further questions, comments?
Igor Potapov, Kaiserpfalz. Probably on the list of omission, and probably Dirk, since you're already looking at this long name of the law of Bundesemissionengesetz, can you look at, I think that on when we are speaking about the heating market, the issue is that there is a so-called sleep requirement by the grid operator, and that's more or less, it's only like 5% of all technologies use this the technology that can fit into this sleep requirement, meaning like 95% of technologies like membrane, PSA, whatever, cannot fit in that. So meaning that in most cases then Ukrainian biomethane cannot even go into heating market in Germany. So probably you can fix this omission as well. That's all. Thanks.
I'll be like Cyriac now. I'll take that home.
A lot of homework. Here we have another intervention.
Yeah. Thank you. My name is Andrei Bili, and today I represent Onur Group, which working in Ukraine, and now we are interested in investing in a biomethane plant with a budget like 25 million euros. And it's my question is very short to Mr. Massué, if I'm correctly pronounced it. Is it possible to correct all these regulatory issues in like 1 year, or how do you think where it will be fixed? Because for us it's really a critical question, to know how we can calculate this project, because if we calculate it liquid gas, it's one story, if it's natural gas, other story, if it's electricity, it's not interesting. It's quite better to go in storages or wind. So.
Well, you saw my physical reaction to pledging a timeline. It's not my task actually, so I don't want to speak for the colleagues, but I mean, it's the usual conundrum when you are the ministry. We are very well aware that delays and uncertainties are poison to the market and to final investment decisions. So at least I can assure you that we are very much aware that time is of the essence, especially when it comes to the energy sector in Ukraine. My minister just traveled to Kiev, and she implemented a new task force for the support of Ukraine and the energy sector. It's more focused on the emergency help, but I want to assure you, and this is also the message that was conveyed by my deputy director today, that our goal is not to lose track of the longer term solutions. We want to break out of this vicious cycle of destruction and repairs. So to come back to your issue, we know that we need to create the certainties or contribute, where it is not our task, but for instance the Commission's, to creating the certainties that the investors need to make actually the investments. And this is the messaging that you will hear repeatedly from our government, is that reconstruction of Ukraine, in the energy sector, the reconstruction of a more resilient, more diversified, more renewable energy sector, it needs the leveraging of private capital. And for that, that's our task. We know that we need to create the framework conditions or to help our Ukrainian partners to do so. So, point taken, absolutely, I'm with you, but on the timeline, you will excuse me that I can't promise anything right now.
I think that's fully understandable. Any other questions, preferably not directed to Cyriac? Comments? There's one more. Yeah, just one, and then you can.
Hello, my name is Robert Dunajewski from Katzenbach Engineering. We are working in Ukraine, designing the wind farms, actually, with some of the players here. But my question would be the following. The biomethane is now concentrated on export to EU. What do you think, as an expert in this field, to all of you, what is needed to make it interesting product for internal market in Ukraine? Thank you.
I think Adomas, without looking, maybe you can start and then
same as in EU, we need to have regulation, because you need biomethane to decarbonize, and either business needs to have penalties for not decarbonizing or some sort of subsidies, and we don't have that. So I think Ukraine will move to that. Right now it's not the best time for obvious reasons, but I believe that in 2-3 years Ukraine will be there. But it still doesn't mean that still regulatory barriers that do not make any sense need to be in place. I think this goes against the principle of the European Union. And I don't want to push too much, but I think that was a very good comment, because what we may have right now, we may have another regulation that kind of solves the problem, but not really solves the problem. Because RED 2 regulations gives you the framework how you need to work when UDB is not in place. You have framework, it's very easy, it's very clear actually. I don't have any difficulties understanding, and policemen in this business are auditors. And you speak with auditors, they will tell you what documents you need to provide, and you say, fine, no problem, this is how it works. But politicians, they usually say that we need to find out something, and that becomes very confusing. And for 2 years, they're trying to find out something, and this not for you. Don't get me wrong. But no. But really, it's not, because we spoke, and I feel that there is a big willingness to help. But still, the current draft law might create a situation when Germany will say that all the transaction needs to go via UDB, but UDB is not in place. And it's not up to Germany, it's not up to Ukraine, it's up to European Commission, and up to the way that regulations, European Commission regulations, written in such a way that member states do not agree with UDB, the way it has to function. So in theory, it might be even 10 years UDB will not be in place. But again, a directive says if UDB is not in place, how the market works. Rules are very clear.
Yeah, thank you very much. You wanted also, Dirk, to add?
Yeah, I want to contribute a little bit to our joint task here to take the pressure from Cyriac. And in response to your comment, you know, the problem is not the legislation. The problem is that the legislation is open, but that there are authorities, certain Hauptzollamts, that interpret the legislation, the silence of the legislation, in a restrictive manner. So all it would need is essentially just changing their practice. You don't have to wait until Parliament decides on how the new law will look like. They have a wide discretion. They can go left, they can go right. They should go in the right way.
Thank you very much. Great. So I think that was a very lively discussion based on what we have here seen and heard. And yeah, let's hope that we can move forward together on this topic and overcome these obstacles that have been identified, and then kind of create a new promising market for Ukraine, but also for Germany and the European Union. So to creating this win-win, I think, is in the current situation very important, and it will definitely also contribute to a sustainable reconstruction of Ukraine in the current context. And with that, I hand over to Anastasia for the further procedure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as we move from the discussion on the challenges and opportunities in the biomethane sector, I just have to entertain you for a couple of minutes before the stage will be prepared for the signing ceremony. And basically, well, we've heard what can be done in the biomethane sector. And we've heard all of the challenges. That's why it's more exciting, I think, to witness another step in this sector where 2 Ukrainian companies will sign the mandate letter with EBRD that will be a significant progress in 2 biomethane projects in Ukraine, in Poltava region. And I think that is, well, we've heard the discussion here, so I think that that is a truly historic moment because, firstly, these are 2 Ukrainian biomethane projects that are getting as credible as they can in order to work with big IFI that will be participating in these projects, because so far biomethane projects have not been actively considered, or they were considered but not actively financed by the IFIs. So I think that is something that should be celebrated, and we will do that today, and we will congratulate our colleagues. So as my colleague Vika is finalizing the preparations for this moment, now I can actually invite to the stage for the signing ceremony Natalia Lakorjan from EBRD. Welcome, Natalia. Roman Parkhomenko and Alexei Mushak from Reagro and Globino.
Okay.
Would you want to
just
yeah?
Hello, my name is Alexei Mushak. I'm from Ukraine. I'm from company Reagro, and my partner Roman Parkhomenko is from Globina Group. It's a big producer of pork in Ukraine, and we are developing 2 biomethane projects in Poltava. It's left bank, and it's very important for us that finally, successfully, big international finance group and organization is ready to provide some finance for Ukrainian biomethane market, because everybody says that, yeah, it has some great potential, but without money it can be realized. So thank you, EBRD, for starting this process. Hope we are doing well. And thank you one more time for your brilliant discussion. And we really are ready to open Ukrainian biomethane market potential, which I think is huge, and make some significant contribution to European security, energy security, because European for all time and for long time rely on fossil fuels, and unfortunately fossil fuels has a shadow price, and this shadow price that you send money to autocracy, and then autocracy do what we have now in Ukraine. So it's not only a question of energy, it's also a question of our future lives. So thank you one more time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's go. Ну, ти загодом, я за всіх других.
Of course, of course.
Tetiana was a great initiator of this process and said, okay, if you have something on the table, please come to EBRD and we are ready to finance. So we call it, because in Ukraine we have a Ukrainian liberty. Okay, yes. Thank you.